My name is Alina. I'm 32, and I haven't slept more than a few hours since last Wednesday. I keep replaying what I said, the way his face changed, the silence after. I keep wondering if I asked for too much, or if maybe I'd waited too long to ask. We'd been together for 7 years. Long enough that people stopped asking when we'd get married and started asking why we hadn't yet. I always told them we were doing things at our own pace, which felt true until it didn't. I remember the early years with Julian like a movie I loved and watched 100 times. Everything was sharp, alive. I'd wake up to him kissing my shoulder, making coffee shirtless, singing off-key to Hall and Oates while I sat on the kitchen counter wrapped in his hoodie. We had this way of touching like our hands had always known each other. I used to crave him, not just in bed but everywhere, on long drives, in bookstores, while we were grocery shopping. He made even quiet moments feel full. But slowly, so slowly I didn't even notice it at first, something shifted. He still kissed me every morning. But one day I noticed I'd started turning my head just slightly, enough that his lips landed on my cheek instead. I told myself it was because I was groggy or distracted. But it kept happening. He'd hold me at night, his arm a little too tight around my waist, and instead of warmth, I felt trapped. A hug that asked for reassurance. A touch that needed me to say, yes, I'm still here. And I was. Physically, anyway. I'd look at him sometimes and miss him while he was sitting right there on the couch. Miss the way he used to make me laugh mid-sip of wine. Miss the way he used to listen, not just to my words, but to what I wasn't saying. We stopped fighting, which somehow felt worse than the arguments. At least those meant passion, investment, fire. Instead, we floated in parallel. Same apartment, same routines, same dinners in silence. I'd make a joke. He'd nod. He'd ask if I wanted to watch something. I'd say sure, even when I didn't. The sex, when it happened, felt like ticking a box. A brief spark, then the quick return of that heavy quiet. I felt like a body next to him, not a person. One night, I cried after. Not loud, not dramatic. Just tears rolling quietly into the pillow. He didn't notice. Or maybe he pretended not to. I kept trying to talk to him. About travel, adventure, doing something different. But he kept saying, why do we need more? We have everything. But I didn't feel full anymore. I felt like a shell walking through the outline of a life I was supposed to want. So I told him. Last Tuesday. We were eating dinner, Thai takeout, the kind we always got. I didn't plan to say it, not then, but it just came out. I think I need to experience more before I can settle down. I watched the words land like shrapnel. He blinked once. Put his fork down. You mean more than me? I didn't know how to answer that. Because yes and no. I meant more with him, or more on my own, I wasn't sure. I just knew something inside me was screaming, and I couldn't keep pressing mute. He stood up. Quietly. Took the food to the trash. Didn't yell. Didn't cry. Just cleaned up like we were done with dinner. The next morning, I left for work. When I came home, my key didn't work. He didn't text. Didn't call. Just changed the locks like I'd never lived there. Like 7 years could be erased with a locksmith and a silence deeper than any scream. And maybe I deserved that. Or maybe he was just trying to feel like he still had control over something. But I keep thinking about that last kiss. It was 2 nights before. I was brushing my teeth, and he came up behind me, kissed the back of my neck like he used to. I smiled, but it felt rehearsed. Like muscle memory, not emotion. That's when I knew. Not that I didn't love him. I did. I probably still do. But something had changed. Something quiet and crucial. And once it goes quiet like that, it's hard to bring it back. Absolutely. Here's the continuation of Alina's story, developing emotional and sexual tension through a key misunderstanding, daily conflict, and a deepening sense of emotional disconnect, while grounding their identities and life situation further. Julian's a trauma nurse. 12-hour shifts, rotating days and nights, blood on his shoes, and stories he can't tell me because they'd keep me up at night. He comes home carrying other people's emergencies like weight on his shoulders, and I used to think it made him noble. I still do. But lately, I think it also made him tired of carrying anything else, including me. I work in book design, mostly from home. Quiet days filled with typography, margins, and authors who want their manuscripts to look like masterpieces. It's solitary work, and I used to love that. But over time, I started craving connection more than quiet. I wanted to come out of my bubble and into his world, and every time I tried, I felt like I was standing outside a locked room. Julian thinks love is doing things. Fixing the cabinet hinge I didn't know was broken. Bringing me my favorite almond croissants after a night shift. Rubbing my back at 2 a.m. when I say I can't sleep. He tries to touch me into connection. Kisses my neck while I'm chopping onions. Slips his hand under my sweatshirt when I'm scrolling through emails. I used to melt into that. Now I flinch and hate myself for it. One night I told him I felt far away. That I missed talking. That I missed us. He pulled me into him and said, "Then come here," like holding me could bridge the gap. I pulled away. That's not what I meant. He looked at me like I was speaking another language. "You said you missed us. This is us." His hands went to my hips. "Isn't it?" I stepped back. "It's not just about touching, Jules." His jaw tensed. "So now you don't want me to touch you?" And that's the thing, he heard rejection. I meant, reach me another way. Ask me how I'm doing. Ask why I cried at the commercial about the old man and the puppy. Sit on the floor with me and help me figure out why I feel so restless at night. I wanted words. Space for my mess. A hand to hold that didn't expect to move straight into sex. But I didn't know how to say all that without sounding like I was unraveling. So I just said, "I'm tired," and went to bed early. That became our rhythm. Him trying to love me through closeness, me shrinking away in silence. One Saturday, we went to the farmer's market. He held my hand, bought peaches. We bumped into friends and smiled like everything was fine. On the walk back, he reached for me, and I let him kiss me in the middle of the sidewalk. It should have felt romantic. He even said, "You know I love you, right?" And I smiled, nodded. But all I felt was this ache, like I was pretending to be the girl he thought he was kissing. Like if I stayed in that kiss long enough, I'd remember how to feel the same. That night, he made dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and wine, and the same playlist we danced to 3 years ago when we signed the lease on our apartment. He came up behind me again while I was loading the dishwasher. His hands were warm on my waist. He whispered, "God, I miss touching you." I froze. Not because I didn't miss it too, but because I wanted something more before that. A conversation. A look that said, "I see you even when you're not glowing." But I didn't know how to explain that. Instead, I leaned back into him half-heartedly, hoping he wouldn't notice. He did. And I saw it, that moment, when something inside him gave up. It wasn't loud. He didn't say anything cruel. He just stepped back. Quietly. Dried his hands. Walked into the living room and turned on the game. And I stood there, dishwasher half-closed, glass still in my hand, thinking, this is the loneliest I've ever felt while being loved. It was a Thursday night, just one of those quiet, nothing special evenings when the house hums with small sounds. The dishwasher running, the cat rustling in the laundry basket, the low thump of Julian's Spotify playlist bleeding through the bedroom door. He came out of the shower in sweatpants, damp hair pushed back, smelling like cedar wood and steam. I was on the couch with my laptop half open, not working, just pretending to be. The kind of pretending you do when you don't want to be touched, but also don't want to explain why. "Hey," he said, patting barefoot across the hardwood. He bent down behind me and kissed the curve where my neck met my shoulder. I stiffened before I could stop myself. Just a little, just enough for him to feel it. His lips paused. He rested his forehead against my hair for a beat. "You okay?" "Yeah." "Just zoned out," I said, aiming for breezy, failing. He moved around to the front of the couch and took the laptop gently from my lap, closing it. You've been distant lately. I'm just tired. He sat beside me, thigh pressed to mine. You've been tired a lot. I didn't say anything. My eyes were on the TV, but I couldn't have told you what was playing. A cooking show, maybe? Something with too much garlic and fake laughter. His hand slid across my thigh, fingers finding the skin under the hem of my sleep shorts. He leaned in, kissed me soft at first, then deeper, like he was trying to find something between my lips we'd both lost. I let him, kissed him back, tried to make my body respond. But all I could think about was how I wasn't feeling anything. No flutter, no ache, just lips, tongue, breath. And then he did this thing he always used to do that once made me laugh, gave my butt a playful slap, like punctuation. I recoiled, not visibly, but enough that my shoulders tightened, my knees shifted slightly inward. Like my body was trying to protect itself from something it used to welcome. He pulled back, blinking. What? Did I hurt you? No, I said quickly, too quickly. Just surprised me. He studied me for a second, and I hated the way his eyes looked, like he was trying to do math with a broken calculator. You don't let me touch you anymore. That's not true. It is. And even when you do, you're not there. He paused. Is it me? I don't know, I whispered. He sat back, arms crossed now, a kind of quiet hurt gathering in his posture. I'm just trying to be close to you, Alina. I'm not trying to push anything. I just miss you. And I knew he meant it. I knew his heart was in it. That this was love, in the only way he knew how to give it. But all I could feel was trapped. Because every time he reached for me, it felt like a countdown. Like the beginning of something I didn't want to finish. And the worst part? I wanted to want it. I wanted to feel the way I used to melt into his kiss, to crave the weight of his body over mine. But instead, I was stuck in this awful space between guilt and numbness. He ran a hand through his hair and said quietly, "You used to touch me back." And I looked at him, this man I'd shared 7 years and 1,000 quiet mornings with, and I couldn't explain why I felt like I was underwater every time he tried to love me. So I turned away. Let's just watch something, I said, reaching for the remote. He nodded, said nothing, just leaned back and put a pillow between us without meaning to. And as the show flickered on and he settled beside me, warm, familiar, and suddenly too far, I thought to myself, why does everything have to turn into sex? It happened on a Sunday night. We'd gone out to dinner, some trendy Mediterranean place Julian had picked because he thought I needed a reason to put on a dress again. I wore the green one he used to love, the one he said made my collarbones look like art. He told me I looked beautiful, and I smiled and thanked him, but it felt like trying on a version of myself I didn't fit into anymore. We ordered drinks, shared an appetizer. Everything was fine in that brittle, performative way where you both know something's wrong, but pretend it's not because you're too tired to fight about it in public. Halfway through the entree lamb skewers, lemon potatoes, he reached across the table, took my hand in his, and said, "You know, I've been thinking, maybe it's time we talk about next steps." I blinked. Next steps? Yeah, he smiled, earnest. You've been unsettled, and I get that. But I think maybe we just need a reset. What if we took a trip? Somewhere new. Or maybe we start looking at houses, get out of the city, plant roots. He squeezed my fingers. Let's start building something real. Something in me cracked. Julian, I said, my voice shaking, we've been building something real. That's not the problem. He frowned. Then what is? You keep saying you're not happy, but you won't tell me what you want. I want. My throat tightened. The music got louder, or maybe my brain did. I want to feel like I'm not drowning in my own life. His hand slowly retracted. Wow. Okay. And you keep thinking it's about a house, or a vacation, or a ring. It's not. It's me. I don't know who I am anymore, Julian. I've disappeared inside us. A couple at the next table paused their conversation. Julian leaned forward, quieter now. So what, you want to break up? You want to sleep with other people? That what this is? No. I snapped, louder than I meant to. I didn't say that. I didn't say I wanted to sleep with anyone. God, why is that always where your mind goes? He sat back, his face stone. Because you said you needed to experience more, Alina. What the hell does that mean if it's not that? I don't know. I just know I can't keep pretending I'm okay with this. Every kiss that feels like obligation, every touch that makes me flinch. I feel like a liar every time I let you undress me. Silence. Utter, breathless silence between us. His jaw clenched, and for a second, I thought he might cry or get up and leave. But he didn't. He just said, quietly like a wound, "So I'm the problem." I didn't say that, I whispered, but my voice was already gone. He looked away. The server came by, awkwardly hovering. "Can I wrap anything up for you?" "No," Julian said, his tone flat. "We're done." And we were. With dinner. With the illusion. We didn't speak on the drive home. His hands were tight on the wheel. The city lights blurred past, and all I could feel was this icy pit in my stomach. When we got home, he didn't follow me inside. Just sat in the car for a long time. I watched from the window as he stared straight ahead, like the world had tilted and he didn't know how to move in it anymore. And I sat on the floor of our hallway, my heels still on, makeup smudging beneath my eyes, hands gripping the fabric of that green dress like it might hold me together. I hated the way I'd said it, hated that I'd hurt him, that I'd humiliated us in public, that I couldn't seem to explain it right, ever. I felt cruel, ungrateful, like I'd taken something whole and smashed it out of my own confusion. But more than anything, I felt shame, because I had told the truth, and the truth had shattered everything. And somewhere, echoing in my head, was the sentence that started it all. I told him I needed to experience more before settling down. And the next day, he changed the locks. The apartment felt like a museum of things we no longer said. Days blurred. Mornings passed with barely a nod. He'd make coffee like always, pour mine into the blue mug with the chipped handle. But he didn't leave it on my desk anymore. Just set it on the kitchen counter like it was for anyone, not me. Julian moved through the space like a man rehearsing for a part he no longer believed in. He shaved in silence. Came home late, even when his shift ended early. Ate standing at the counter, like sitting across from me required a kind of intimacy he didn't have to give. And God, I missed him in the way you miss someone who still sleeps 6 feet away. I missed his terrible puns and how he'd narrate our cat's thoughts in a British accent. I missed the way he used to text me photos of weird ER lunches and write, "Miss you, don't die," underneath. I missed the version of us that didn't feel like walking on eggshells in our own home. But every time I thought about saying something, I froze. Because what would I even say? Sorry I broke us open and didn't know how to fix it? Sorry I made you feel unwanted when I didn't know how to want myself? One night, I passed him in the hallway. We brushed shoulders, and I felt him pause, just a hitch in his step, like he wanted to say something. But he didn't. Neither did I. That same night, I caught him sitting on the edge of the bed long after I'd pretended to fall asleep. The light from his phone lit up his face. He wasn't scrolling, just holding it, staring at nothing. His shoulders sagged forward, spine bent like grief was a weight he carried alone. He looked like a man mourning me while I still breathed beside him. I thought about reaching out, just placing my hand on his back. A small gesture. But my body refused to move, because touching him meant opening the door. And I wasn't sure what was left behind it. He wasn't cruel, never raised his voice, never weaponized my honesty. But he stopped asking where I was going or when I'd be home. He stopped watching my face across the dinner table for signs of how I was feeling. He stopped trying. And I knew it was his way of protecting himself, of putting space between the man he was with me and the man he'd have to become without me. And still, I wanted him. Not just his body, his comfort, his certainty, the life we'd built like a fortress, even if the walls were cracking. But I didn't know if I deserved it anymore. One Sunday morning, I found a small box on the top shelf of our bedroom closet. I hadn't seen it before. Inside was a key ring with a tag that said, "For the next place," along with a folded note in his handwriting. "Was going to give you these when you were ready." I sat on the floor, holding that note like it might vanish if I breathed too hard. He was always planning for us, even when I was unraveling. And what had I given him? Distance, silence, cold kisses, and careful excuses. I thought I was protecting us from a lie. Maybe I was just running from something harder: how love changes, how desire fades and reforms in new shapes, how commitment means staying even when it stops being easy. That afternoon, I sat by the window with a note in my lap and asked myself the question I'd been avoiding for weeks. Do I want to try again, or do I want to walk away? I didn't have the answer yet, but I knew this. If I stayed, I'd have to show up as someone braver. If I left, I'd have to live with the truth that I once had real love and let it slip through my hands. It happened on a rainy Tuesday evening, weeks after the last real conversation, when I finally found the courage to speak. Julian was sitting at the kitchen table, flipping through some printout from work, a pen twirling slowly between his fingers. I stood in the doorway for a long time, watching him, his shoulders hunched, hair slightly too long at the back, the faint smudge of fatigue under his eyes. He looked older than he had in September. So did I. "Can we talk?" I asked. He looked up. Something in his expression flickered. Not anger, not hope, just a quiet, cautious kind of readiness. "Yeah." I sat across from him, hands in my lap like a kid in confession. The rain ticked against the windows. "I've been thinking about what I said," I began. "And how I said it. It wasn't fair." He didn't move, but I could tell he was listening. Julian always listened with his whole body. "I thought needing space meant I had to burn everything down to get it," I said. "I wanted to find myself, but I didn't realize I was pushing you away to do it." Still nothing. Just that unreadable stillness. "I miss you," I added, voice thinner now. "Not just how we used to be, but you. Your laugh. Your stupid ER stories. How you smell like cedar and laundry detergent. I miss the way you used to look at me like I was something precious." At that, he exhaled. A long, quiet breath. He set the paper down and finally met my eyes. "I still think you're precious," he said softly. "But I don't know if I'm what you want anymore. That's the part one can't stop thinking about." "I want us," I said quickly, too quickly. "I just don't know how to want it the same way as before." He looked down. "You said you needed to experience more." I didn't know if that meant, without me. I swallowed hard. I didn't either. That broke something between us, some brittle shield of politeness we'd both been hiding behind. He reached across the table, slowly, and placed his hand over mine. His thumb traced a lazy line across my knuckle. Familiar. Tentative. "I don't need things to go back to how they were," he said. "But if we're going to try again, I need to know you'll be in it. Really in it. Not flinching every time I reach for you. I want to be. But I need you to meet me differently too. Sometimes I need words before touch. I need space, and not because I don't love you, but because I'm still figuring out how to love myself." He nodded. And then, like he'd been waiting for permission all this time, he stood, walked around the table, and pulled me to my feet. No kiss. No dramatic reconciliation. Just a hug. His arms wrapped around me, warm and strong and still familiar. My cheek pressed to his chest. I heard the steady beat of his heart and realized I hadn't been truly still in weeks. I melted into it. Not because everything was fixed, but because we were choosing to stay, at least for tonight. "I don't know what comes next," I whispered. He kissed my forehead. "Then we figure it out. Together." That night, he didn't sleep on the couch. He lay beside me, not touching, not asking, just breathing quietly in the dark. And, for the first time in a long time, I reached for him. Just my fingers grazing his. He laced his through mine, without a word. It wasn't a finish line. It wasn't a fairy tale. But it was a beginning. If you had told me a few months ago that love could feel both suffocating and sacred at the same time, I probably would have nodded, but not really understood. I do now. I thought needing more meant needing someone else, or somewhere else. But it really meant I needed more of myself, more voice, more silence, more truth I hadn't been brave enough to say out loud. Julian didn't slam doors. He didn't scream. He just got quiet. And that quiet almost broke us. But he stayed, not because I begged, not because we swept it under the rug, but because, somehow, even through the mess and the confusion, he still saw me. And when I was finally ready to be honest, to show up not as the girl he first fell in love with, but the woman I'm still becoming, he reached for my hand. We're not fixed. We're figuring it out. Some nights are still heavy. Some mornings I still turn away when he touches me before I've woken all the way up. But we talk now. And when we touch, it's not out of habit, it's a choice. A conversation between bodies that remember how to listen. So yeah, I told him I needed to experience more before settling down. And what I've learned is sometimes more doesn't mean leaving. Sometimes it means staying. Learning, unlearning, rebuilding, not just the relationship, but the self you lost along the way. And if you're standing where I stood, feeling lost, confused, full of guilt and silence, I want to tell you this. You're not broken for needing more. You're human. Just don't wait so long to speak the truth that love forgets how to hear it. 1.